most people are watching this because they want to better their personal brand. And in their mind, they want to better their persona online.
Because online allows us to magnify whatever it is we want to present to the world. So why don't we start with who we are? Too many people show up on social media to be that facade, not thinking that they need to go any deeper. There's a lot of room and opportunity for all of us to step up and say, you know what? If 99% of the world is moving this way, that's an opportunity. If you just go this way, you're going to stand out. And the whole point of branding is to stand out, is to differentiate yourself from others. And there's a big gap between who you are and how you show up in the world. And so what we want to do is just close the gap every single day in every single way that we can.
Can you unpack how to discover more of who you are so that you have a more inline personal brand?
Okay, before I answer that question, I think I have to address the elephant in the room, which is the
Hey, department family, Omar here. And before we jump into this conversation, I just wanted to take a brief moment, pause for the cause, and say thank you. This is episode 52, which means we've been doing the department podcast for an entire year. And so whether this is your very first podcast that you're listening to or watching, I want to say thank you. It might be your 25th, it might be your 15th, it might be your 52nd. I also want to thank you. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. And my life has changed completely since starting this podcast. And so I'm grateful for you. Excited to have back on the show, Chris Do, who last year, our conversation got viewed over 500,000 times. So personal branding guru. And I know you're going to get so much out of it. Thank you so much. Let's jump into that combo.
Chris, thank you for doing this. Episode 52. This is, commemorative. Okay. Yo, Chris.
What's up, Omar?
I'm going to include even the mess up. But
right.
This is episode 52.
Yeah.
Crazy to look back that about a year from now, we had a conversation that I think on YouTube, exposure-wise, over 500,000 views. And then even from the clips that were cut from that, it really resonated with people on the hunt and search for personal branding, which I believe you're the face of that keyword.
It's online. A good face.
It's a good face. Let's just start with the skincare routine. That was the number one comment. People are like, 50? How old are you? Sorry.
Yeah.
To start with your age.
Yeah, I'm 52.
52.
Yeah.
But people were blown away. What do you do?
What do? I think people misread general vibe and style and age down. And that's a good thing, because that means those are things we can change.
Yeah.
Obviously, when we think about genetics, there's not a lot you can do, but there's some basic things we all could do to preserve what we have. And it's much easier to do maintenance than it is to do repair. So if we have a daily skin routine that exfoliates, hydrates, and moisturizes and protects our skin from the sun, then you've done most of the work that you can do. Turns out like a lot of guys don't even do the basics. They literally throw water in their face and go to sleep. And there's layers of oil and dirt. When I went to see a dermatologist, he talked about this, that when you're younger, you grow a new skin suit every single day. Like within 24 hours, you have a new skin suit. So you think about it, like if you don't take care of what's happening here, a new layer either builds above or below. And that's why you get blackheads and all kinds of skin problems. As you grow older, it takes longer. So now it'll be like a new skin suit every 3 days. So you want to exfoliate less, because then you're doing too much damage and your skin cannot repair itself. But I remember when I was in my probably early 30s, my older brother, who's 4 years older, said, you need to take care of the wrinkles right now. I'm starting to see lines on your face. I'm like, I hadn't seen it myself, but he can already feel that it's coming. So from that point forward, I started to like do a little moisturizing on around the eyes, because anywhere where it's dry and thin, you have to protect and you have to moisturize.
There you go. See, people got value already off of this.
Nick, right off from the drop, man.
You know what you could do? You could take that and create a framework out of that. Layers.
I'm gonna do it. There's a carousel coming.
Yeah. No, I mean, there was something that you brought up, because we're in downtown LA. Thanks for driving on a Friday.
Yep. Beautiful studio.
Yeah, this is cool. This worked out.
Make up for the ladder video, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
People hated on the ladder, which I'm like, I actually hit it. Like, it's not in the shot anymore. So congratulations.
You guys won, internet.
You said this studio is so Hollywood. And I asked, why do you say that? And you said, because it's literally bare minimum. And when you get up close to it, it isn't as cool or as real as it looks from a distance.
Yeah.
And I know the shot looks tight. Your shot looks amazing. I gave you the better shot. You're welcome. But I think there's a correlation there as far as how people build their brands. And there could be superficial. I think most people who are starting out, they go superficial. And this is where I really wanted to talk about is the depth. You really connect like self-discovery when it comes to personal branding. I think what it is, you said personal brand is a process of discovering who you are.
Yeah.
Can you break that down?
Yeah, I can. I want to address the LA comment before I get any hate from everybody. LA is the entertainment capital of the world. It's about facades and appearances. We're also known for plastic and plastic surgery. So when you look at the studio on camera, it's going to look great. And so it's built to the standard in which it needs to, but not 1 inch more. If you pan the camera up, you'll see unfinished edges or things that look a little funky to our human eye, but it's not going to show up on the camera. So I applaud whoever built the studio and designed it because they knew what it's going to be intended for. It's not meant for you to live here. It's just meant to look good on camera. And they're very thoughtful in their design. So it served its purpose. But if you were to try to live here, if you leaned against the wall, it'd probably fall over. So it's all set and designed for optics. Now let's connect that to personal brand. And I think, unfortunately, too many people show up on social media to be that facade, not thinking that they need to go any deeper. And that's usually where the problem happens. So when you meet somebody in real life, or you go over their house, or you hang out with them for any period of time, or you take them out of their zone of comfort, they fall apart really quickly. So it's like it looks good from far, but it's far from good. And that's the thing that we're trying to work against. And I think there's a lot of room and opportunity for all of us to step up and say, you know what? If 99% of the world is moving this way, that's an opportunity. If you just go this way, you're going to stand out. And the whole point of branding is to stand out, is to differentiate yourself from others.
And what's funny is because it's like, it does take explanation, because you could stand out for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And personal branding, when you hear it, maybe in this context, people are saying online, but it's before online. Who are you?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Because online allows us to magnify whatever it is we want to present to the world. So why don't we start with who we are? Now, I'm going to grab my phone, not because I want to check messages, but I came across this account on Instagram, and they were showing like quotes from Carl Jung, the philosopher, not the philosopher, the psychotherapist, the psychologist. And it so resonated with me. So I'm just read a few of the Carl Jung quotes I didn't even know. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. That's one.
I love that.
The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. And I got one more for you. To be normal is the ultimate aim of the unsuccessful. And so what we're doing as a society is to try to be normal, to fit in, because being ostracized or to be left out or not included is very painful for most of us. Not to feel like we have a place where we feel like we belong is so painful that we're willing to subjugate our true selves internally and externally. And I think that's a shame, because we wake up one day, we're 40, 50, or 60 years old, and we have to ask ourselves, who am I? And what is it I was supposed to be doing? Because my best years are behind me. Now I'm looking at the twilight of my life, the fall season of my life, and I'm still lost and still searching. And it's a sad thing.
I love that. That's something that naturally happens to me, is when I hear other people's truths, my brain goes to what I know from scripture. And there is a scripture, Jesus says, if you want to find your life, lose it. When you lose it, you'll actually find it. And then another thing Jesus says is, if you want to be the greatest servant. It's called kingdom paradigms, because the kingdom's upside down. And so many times, if you want to be first, go last.
Yeah.
And if you try to go first, you'll become last regardless.
Yeah.
It's kind of just like, very introspective. You have a framework when it comes to like discovering of self, and that is authenticity. What is it? I wrote it down. I got you.
That's tell me. Yeah, you got me. It is
authenticity, empathy, and logic.
Oh, okay. That is not a framework for, what did you say, for finding yourself?
Or a framework for a personal brand.
Oh, okay. That's the pyramid. It's called the trust pyramid. Okay. And it was coined by two women for a Harvard Business Review article. I'm spacing on their name right now. Through due diligence and research, it's going to be right there.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they said that if you want to have high trust factor, there's a couple of things you need to do. One is you have to be authentic. Like the person that shows up is the person that is is the same person when the cameras are off and no one's around.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a big gap between who you are and how you show up in the world. And so what we want to do is just close the gap every single day in every single way that we can. The next thing is, do we feel like you're looking out for people? So that's an empathy thing. It's like, do I feel like you've got my best interest at heart? Because if you do, then I'm going to give you more trust.
That's good.
And the last thing is logic. And what by logic, it means, do you have a way of thinking that's easy to follow? And so if we look at the trust triangle, we remove one component, we start to see like, oh, that's not great. So when we think of salespeople, expert salespeople, do they appear to be authentic? Maybe. We don't know. Do we feel like they have our best interest at heart? Definitely not. They're logical. Like if you do these 4 steps, you'll make $1 million. So that's what they're missing. And you can take pretty much everybody that you have funny feelings about and ask yourself, which one of these 3 things feels off? A lot of people are logical and feel as if they're looking out for us, but we question, is that really you? And that's the problem. People who are too manicured, people who are too curated in their lives, we get a little suspicious. And this is a weird thing because we aspire to be more perfect.
You're right.
But in that pursuit of trying to be more perfect, we break trust. So the person who comes at you dressed in plain clothes, who is very honest and humble about what car they came in or how they're struggling with putting things together, or maybe they just got a bad relationship, they're dealing with abuse or alcohol or something like that, you automatically think that they must be more authentic. Versus the person who comes in with perfect teeth and their skin's glowing, everything there's all put together. Even though they've given us no reason not to trust them, we start to say like, something's off. I don't know why. You're just too perfect.
For sure.
Yeah.
How have you, because you started creating content at 42.
Yeah.
Or posting content. I think we're always creating, but like as far as like being intentionally posting. But how have you given yourself the permission to be who you are without waiting for somebody else to give you that permission?
Yes, that's a good question. I came upon this concept from someone who's like deep in the metaphysical woo world, right? He's a channeler. And he talked about we all are looking for permission slips. And it's the first time I heard it used that way. And I was thinking, is that true? And it turns out that's kind of true for a lot of people. We won't start something unless someone gives us permission. We won't change our habits or do something different because we're waiting for someone to give us permission. So the key or unlock in life is to give yourself permission to do whatever it is you're supposed to be doing. Stop waiting around, because you could wait for the rest of your life and you wind up being a waiter. We don't want to do that. We want to be a person who's got a strong bias towards action. Somewhere along in my life, probably my early 20s, I find design as my calling card, like my thing, my zone of genius, and I'm working in that space. As soon as you find that thing that you're really good at, start to build your entire identity around that, because it's a really strong foundation.
Good.
And from that, I can branch outwards. It doesn't need to be a skill that people pay you money for. It could just be a conviction of your beliefs as you have. I find that people who are very religious, who are convicted in their faith, have a really strong house to build on. They stop wanting to prove anything to anybody, and they can exist just for the sake of existing. And then they become, oddly enough, very attractive, not in a physical, like lustful way, but attractive. Like there's a vibe, there's an aura about you that I like, and I don't know why, but I'm just drawn to you. Powerful speakers, pastors, teachers, mentors, those kinds of people tend to be very magnetic and draw people towards them.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I think there is something about, I think it's very attractive when you give your gift away. Like we've been gifted with something, and because you see the world from that point of view, or you've obsessed over that thing, people haven't taken the time to obsess over it, and people appreciate that. And I actually think that's the goal, honestly, of life, is like figure out that thing, and then just give it away. Like homie said, exploit yourself.
When you say homie, are you talking about Jesus or who? What are you
no, the guy's tweet you read.
Oh, Carl Jung?
Carl Jung.
Yeah.
Sorry, Carl.
The great Carl Jung is reduced to homie.
Hey, department fam, wanted to take a brief break from this conversation. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. And the first thing I wanted to talk about is that, did you know that 75% of the people that
watch this podcast on YouTube actually aren't subscribed, which is a high chance that you're not subscribed. So number one, I want to say thank you for listening or watching the podcast. And number two, if you can hit that subscribe button, that would be amazing. The second thing is, if you are an entrepreneur, content creator, or somebody looking to make money online, I want to encourage you to come to this online event called the Content to Cash Challenge. This is a special 5-day event that's going to give you access to the system I use in my business to make multiple 6 figures with my content. If you've been desiring to either get your business and brand more exposure, grow a YouTube channel, whatever it is when it comes to video, I would encourage you to jump into the Content to Cash Challenge. We'll be sure to post the link to the challenge down in the show notes or the description. And I want to encourage you to jump into the VIP experience. This will give you access to a 1-hour Q&A call every day of the challenge. This will guarantee myself to answer a personalized question you may have. So I'll see you on the Content to Cash Challenge. Now let's jump back into the conversation. And I some people though, they're not, because there's a buzzword and that's like niche. I don't want to niche myself down. Yeah. And I think it's because people would feel like they need to be a generalist. Yeah. And I think.
Can we park on this idea of a gift?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a great and powerful quote from Picasso. I'm not sure if I shared it with you last time. If I did, just bear with me. Which is this: Picasso says, "The meaning of life is to discover your gift." Part one. It's a big one. And then the purpose of life is to give it away. Mm-hmm. And then I'd like to add, you are the gift. So there's 3 parts to that. What is the gift? Give it away, and only to discover you don't need to find something. It's within you, and you're the gift. So I think we are all designed, created, evolved to have a very unique set of skills, Liam Neeson. And our journey through life is to figure out what that is. And I kind of look at it like this, and there's a story I'm telling now, so I'm going to tell you and your audience the story, okay?
Yeah.
Now, I want you to imagine this idea, and it's a crazy idea. Just go with me, everybody. The idea is this, is you're actually not human. The rest of us were human, but you're an alien from another planet, not from south of the border or anything. You're from another planet, and on this planet, they were facing a cataclysmic event. And so your parents had the foresight to predict that this was going to happen and wanted to send you off to save you. And before they can save the rest of society, the whole planet imploded. But you were sent to a planet somewhere in the universe that would give you inherent strengths and advantages. And you land on Earth. And then you're discovered by human parents who don't know what to do with you. Like, who's this little alien boy or girl? And they raise you with human ideas and weaknesses and conventions. And you grow up just like a human. But in fact, you have superhuman strength. You have superhuman capacity to do things that no human can do. You can think faster. You can see farther. You can do more. Mm-hmm. But you forgot. And that's the problem. And if the story format sounds familiar, it's the story of Superman. Superman was from a planet Krypton, who on Krypton, everyone's the same. Sends to Earth because the yellow sun gives Superman all his powers. And he is raised by human parents and is taught to be very human. And the interesting thing is the way Clark Kent or Kal-El just hides himself in public is he's fumbling, cowardly, nearsighted, and kind of an idiot. When the real Kal-El sheds his earthly uniform and switches into his Kryptonian uniform, he is one of Earth's mightiest heroes. Mm. Now here's the problem. You are Kal-El, but you just forgot, and you're living like Clark. And that's the problem. So we have to go and figure out our gift. We have to go and rediscover what it is that we have that's so powerful that we do better than anybody, just about anybody on Earth. But sadly, very, very, very small percentage of people understand that that's the game. Mm-hmm. And even fewer are able to find it. And once you find it, it's really powerful stuff.
And so I think when we would, right now, most people are watching this because they want to better their personal brand. And in their mind, they want to better their persona online. That's their point of view.
Yeah.
But something you've been on, I think this year has been who are you?
Yeah.
Can you unpack how to discover more of who you are so that you have a more inline personal brand?
Okay, before I answer that question, I think I have to address the elephant in the room, which is that I'm trying to really help people live more in alignment with who they are towards their highest purpose and their passion, and to unbundle a lot of the socialized norms of how we're supposed to show up with a persona. Carl Jung describes the ego as the thing that regulates between our shadow self, our true self, and the persona, the person we show up to be accepted by society. And especially if you're raised here in the West and America, there's a lot of fitting in to be part of the pack because there's safety in numbers. We get that. Like every time I feel outside of the pack, I feel very unsafe, unwelcome, and super awkward as heck. So there's natural survival skills that are kicking in that are thousands or hundreds of thousands of years in development that we just have to realize when we don't live in those scarce times anymore. Our survival isn't at risk, but we're still behaving like this unevolved person. There's an artist who sent me a series of paintings, and he had this really beautiful poem. I forget his name right now, but he has a beautiful poem. He says, "Be you till full." Beautiful. Be you till full. And I was like, wow, that's cool. That's a bar, right?
That is a bar.
As Mo would say. And I think there's something about this. And if this message is resonating with you, if it stirs your heart, your soul, please lean into this conversation, because I am going to take you on a very different path to what I feel like 99% of the people who are in the personal branding coaching space are saying. That this, I think, on the surface is going to be hard for you to hear, but on a deeper level, it should resonate with your soul, because all I'm asking you is to be more of you. That's what I'm asking.
That's really good. The obstacle is life feels like we need permission to be fully us. And we're looking for a permission to be for us to be okay with who we are. How do you remove the need for that?
Okay.
More than just saying it's okay to be you.
Yeah. Okay. So we need permission, right? And I think what's happened is our parents raised us with good intention, most of them with full of love and desire to protect us and to lead us away from hurting ourselves and other people. And what we learned early on is if you went to pick your nose, they're like, don't do that. If you wanted to cut a fart or something, they're like, no. So we start to get cultured or socialized into behaving normal like everyone else. And there's something that was good about that, but then all of a sudden there's a dark side to this.
I would say one word I think about is programmed even.
Program is a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Programmed to be a certain way or to be safe.
Yeah, or to not create discomfort for yourself or for other people. And it's this really weird thing. Like we're trying our best to be normal. Like when you're misbehaving, when you're acting weird, somebody's like, dude, why can't you just be normal? And I went to the dictionary because I think words are powerful. Words shape worlds. And when you look up the word normal, it kind of means like average, the standard. And that seems like okay on the surface, except for like I remember in art school when you would create something. The worst thing that the instructor can say to you as a creator is not, this is a piece of garbage, or I don't get it, this is stupid, that was too wild, it didn't work. The worst insult to me would to say, yeah, it's kind of average. Like love it, hate it, but the worst thing is to be average, to be normal, the standard. In the art world, the creative world, that's a very painful word to hear, but yet in normal, polite society, it's like we're trying to do that. Yeah. We're trying to be normal. We're trying to be average. And branding and personal branding is about differentiation. What makes you different? What makes you unique? And you, by your shape, size, tone of your voice, your heritage, your parents' story, your story, that's special. But what we do is we take an erase and we scrub all that away so that we're normal. And I think that's the tragedy.
That's really good. What do you think about me? Am I normal? I don't know.
That's funny. That didn't come up the last conversation. They're on a curveball here. I don't think you're normal. I think you're embracing all the parts of you. And you talk a lot about your faith. you embrace fashion as part of your identity, and you're doing some pretty atypical things. You're mixing certain pants with boots and cap and beard, and you're not easy to put into a category or box, right?
That's cool.
Yeah.
You mentioned a quote about Steve Jobs said the goal of brand.
Yeah.
Like when we think about great brands, you think Apple, and he had a great point at what the goal of a brand is to begin with.
Well, we have to realize we can argue whether or not Apple has a great brand. It's hard to argue that they're a $3 trillion plus company, the first $1 trillion company, and now worth $3 trillion. So they're doing something right. Also, from a retail perspective, they make more money per square foot than Tiffany's makes per square foot. And that's hard to fathom because
kind of wild.
They sell jewelry.
Yeah.
Right. And I came upon this clip on social media, and it's an old interview. Steve Jobs is still a young man. And they asked him, like, what is brand or branding? And he says, well, let me just make it real simple for you. He said, brand or branding is trust. How you build trust. He goes, think of it as a trust bank. So he says, every time somebody has a positive experience with your product or your service, if there's a problem that goes wrong, how are you able to help them? And I think he says we at Apple are not thinking weeks or days, we're thinking about minutes. How quickly can we resolve this for our customer? And when you do that right, you make a deposit in the trust bank. Conversely, your products fall apart, it's frustrating on any level, your customer service response takes too long, it's a withdrawal from the trust bank. So he goes, at Apple, we don't talk about branding. We don't care about that. What we care about is obsessing over making amazing products and delighting the customer along the entire customer journey. That's how we build our brand. And I just love that.
That's
so
good.
Maybe branding is building trust at scale.
It's really good. And I love the idea of like the bank part, because there is, and it's different for everyone, financial upside to be able to build a personal brand that takes care of your needs, and even more so potentially become more lucrative, right? When it comes to the idea of like building trust and asking, like, how do you gauge that? And I've heard you talk about 911.
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, let's go back to the trust bank. Every time you ask, you take away. It's a withdrawal again. And one thing I didn't mention is, like a bank account, over time, if you consistently make deposits, it compounds with interest. It's not a linear thing, right? It compounds. It grows exponentially.
It's good.
So what you want to do is you want to leave as much trust in the bank as possible and to make as few withdrawals as possible. The reason why some of your brands are culturally bankrupt is because you give and you ask. You give and you ask. So there's literally nothing to compound, because let me give you a piece of value, sign up for my webinar. Sign up for my webinar, I'm going to upsell you. Upsell, go into my mastermind. Mastermind, go join the Platinum Club. It's nonstop. And I'm very allergic to this myself. I'm like, whoa, I know the game. I can see where it's going to go. Obviously, it works on lots of people, but I can see it. It's super transparent to me. On the flip side, artists are very good at doing this, Omar. Value, value, value. Up until this point, they're bankrupt and are living at home now. So what we're trying to do is to find a pragmatic, practical way for you to build trust at scale while putting food on the table. We need to balance those two things because we want to play this game for as long as possible. We're trying to play the infinite game. So the way that we do this is we say, you know what? If people aren't engaging with your content, if they're not responding or following, and you don't feel like you have that connective tissue, you're not building any community, it's because your social accounts have gone comatose. The body is blue, no one's breathing, the signs of life are low. And at least here in America, if there's an emergency, somebody's breaking into your place, or there's your grandma's falling down and not getting up, you call 911. Don't call Life Alert, you call 911. And that's an emergency number, right? So this is your operator, 911, what's your emergency? My brand sucks, no one cares. I just keep posting and it feels like it's cruel and unusual punishment. So let's break it down. 911 is just a heuristic or a mnemonic for you to remember something. Create 9 pieces of value. Give wholeheartedly without any expectations or asking of anything. Just give, teach, improve someone's life, make them laugh.
Good.
Give them a hack, do something, provide value. And then if you do that for too long, which is what creatives like myself do, is it creates a feeling of mistrust. Like, why is this person just giving value all the time? There must be some play that I can't see, and I'm not seeing the person behind it, so I'm not making an emotional connection. It's just faceless educational product.
Yeah.
So the one is for one thing that's personal, something that's weird, something that shows you in your light. Yeah, like if you like Dungeons and Dragons, do that. If you like doing cartwheels or breakdancing, include that. And I've seen this in my own account. I teach and they get pretty good engagement, not through the roof. And then I show up and do a dance or weird pose or just do something silly.
Twerk.
And then there it goes. Well, we haven't done that yet. Come on. There's nothing to twerk back there. That's just work. Right? And then those reels get hundreds of thousands of views. So that's an order of 4 or 5 times the analytics that I'm getting for the other stuff, the engagement. The last part is now, okay, we've shown a personality, we've given tons of value. Well, now you can ask for something. You can ask for people to join your mastermind, to buy a product, an info product, or to attend a workshop, or just to do a meetup with you. You've earned the right to ask. And now you can ask unabashedly, and you don't have to disguise it in a piece of content or value.
Yeah.
And we've created so much value that today I don't even care. I will do 10 posts asking for people to buy stuff, and no one's mad at me.
Yeah.
They're still highly engaged because they feel the bank is so full, I can pull a little bit out.
And I think people get excited that you asked.
Yes, you're right.
You get an excited
Thanks for
buyer.
reminding me of that.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We wanted to support you. It's just like, tell us how.
Yeah.
And finally you do.
Really
and I think
good.
of this, if you make $1 billion, if you have $1 billion in the bank account, that gets you on a pretty low risk, high return account. You could probably make 8%. So what's 8% of $1 billion? Like 1,000, 110% is 100 million. So that would be like 80 million, I think. Could you live comfortably on $80 million a year?
100.
100. Oh, you want 100 million? No, I'm just kidding. 80 million. So once the trust account has grown to such a degree, you're riding on the residual income or interest of the trust account. So I've been doing content for 10 years. Very little of it has been asking anybody for anything in any serious way. So I feel like I've gotten permission and encouragement from the community and the fans. Ask for as much as you want.
Yeah.
And that's what I do now.
And I think something that allows people, this is why something that I've been talking about this year is people over 40 should start creating content.
Yeah.
It's because a lot of people in their 2.0 era in life, they have leverage. They have something already kind of paying the bills so that they can give without asking, and you actually create from a euphoric place because it's like there's no transaction, there's nothing, to ask for. Like, did you have leverage when you started creating content at 42? And what was it? Was it like your agency and stuff?
Well, I see what you're saying. I didn't think of it as leverage. I think what you're talking about is credibility. So I'm 42 at that point. So I'm 20 years into service work, probably 60, $70 million in billings at that point cumulatively. And I know what I'm talking about. And I'm not saying I needed to leverage that because we didn't talk that much about the agency. I just wanted to create content. I'm at a point, once you're in your 40s, I think you start to know who you are, and you're giving fewer F's about what people think. And so I'm just working from that place. I'm going to make content. It might help some people, it might not, but it's not for you. It's for me. I've worked 20 plus years making someone else happy. I'm going to make myself happy.
Yeah.
I didn't trade in a commercial client paying me lots of money to then have a lot of faceless internet jockeys, keyboard warriors telling me now what to do. I don't want that boss for this boss. That's a much worse boss. So I'm going to show up for me now. And the cool part is some people like it. Some people don't. I'm cool with that. I don't know why people want to take the time to tell me how to walk off a bridge. I'm like, I get it. I'm not for you. Find whoever works for you. And the best part for me as a creator is when those people who wrote you off come back, it's like, it took me 2 years, but I was wrong about you. I get what you're doing now. And I'm a really big fan. I'm like, welcome back. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to win your trust.
At what point do you see the audience that you've created online? Okay, let me just backtrack a little bit. I like to say there's 2 ways to build an audience online, and it's by building a media company.
Okay.
Where the goal is mass viewership, and then you sprinkle in some ads, or you get sponsored,
right,
or AdSense
brand
or something
deals,
like that, brand deals. And then the other side is like the marketing engine for a business.
Right.
Where do you find yourself on that tandem? Or I feel like you cracked the code on like right in the middle, but
I think my answer to that is yes.
yeah.
We make money in a lot of different buckets.
Yeah.
No one bucket is the end all and be all. So I looked at our stat from YouTube. 10 years in, we've grossed $1 million from AdSense, which is like, what?
$1 million from AdSense.
$1 million from AdSense. Can you even believe that?
I can't.
I know Mr. Beast is like, that's a day, a half a day of work.
Dude,
for him.
your RPM though is probably
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just shocked. I'm like, dang, you never know, because it's like a couple of dollars here, a couple of dollars
there.
there.
Are people that will not make $1 million in 10 years, and you did it pouring out.
Yeah. Isn't
really
that so cool?
Incredible.
That is the most beautiful form of passive income. And if I was doing it by myself and didn't have a family, that was pretty good money. I remember when I was a kid, like 18 years old, I was like, one day I'd like to make $1 million.
Yeah.
And making stupid YouTube videos.
You did it by accident.
About pricing. You just do it by accident. How cool is that? So we also do brand deals, and some of our brand deals are 6 figures.
Yep.
We have courses that people buy. That's generated $1 million, multi-million dollars for us. I do coaching and I run communities, and I do private one-on-one coaching and public speaking, and all of it is built on the engine of goodwill.
So good.
And if you can live this way, why wouldn't you do it? And you get to help people.
Yeah.
I go on stages, Omar, and I tell people, sorry, but I'm going to tell you, I have the best job in the world. I get paid a lot of money to help people achieve their dreams.
So good. I love it. I think it's crazy because something that blows me away is people who have followed my content and my stuff for a while. They come up to me and they say, thank you. And I'm in the journey of entrepreneurship, and the thought that goes through my mind is they're thanking me for finding them, or like I was marketing my business and you thanked me for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's the best. Thank you for marketing your business is essentially what they're saying.
Yeah.
If you do it the right way.
Yeah.
And
let me explain that in marketing speak for some people. Okay.
Yeah.
Most businesses look at the cost per acquisition,
Yep.
CPAC or something like that, and lifetime customer value. So they go against the lifetime customer value might be $1,000. So they can spend up to $1,000 to buy the customer in ads and incentives and bonuses and things like that. I said, it's cool. That's a business fundamental. You're looking at that. I said, how cool would it be if people actually paid you to market to them so they can become your customer? And that's the beauty of what it is that we're doing right now. Somebody asked me before, like, what's your ad spend? I'm like, I don't know. Like, is it that bad? I'm like, maybe you tell me. I messaged my team. What have we spent? And they're like, $22,000. I'm like, $22,000. Like, okay, a month? I'm like, check back, a month? Like, no, a year. They spend $100,000 a month or $200,000 a month. And so it's not an easy, quick solution to anybody. I just want to be clear about that.
Yeah.
It's 10 years of showing up day after day, week after week,
Yep.
consistently giving. You don't have to pay for anything.
Yeah.
People are aggressively looking to consume your information. And when we send an email to announce a product, like, yay.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
So good. I found the way you've chosen to show up is very, I'm going to teach, I'm going to have a conversation, and we're just going to turn on some cameras. And I like to say you be the content. You don't make the content. And that it's been resonating really well. Like your long form videos do really well. And is there a reason why you went that route as opposed to, I think what it does, it gives people permission to just turn on cameras because you're probably already teaching, you're probably already having conversations, but you don't really do like direct to cameras as much type stuff.
Yeah, the cool thing about if you love to teach, which is my core identity, and I didn't understand that until I went down this path. I thought it was always my core identity as a graphic designer, but it's really as an educator. And I love having conversations with people. It's stimulating. I'm looking always for a good problem to solve because I feel like they learn and I learn twice as much because they're asking me a really good question. I'm starting to think like, how would I solve that problem? It's an opportunity to play. I just wish there were more cameras on me when these things were happening because these spontaneous conversations are so fun and valuable and different. And it allows me to go into areas that aren't scripted, obviously, but just a natural flow in conversation that I just really enjoy. So we're trying our best to create those moments for people on the internet to see. I always feel like when we get in the studio and the whiteboards are up and we turn the camera, so what are we talking about today? It feels constructed.
Mm-hmm.
I try my best to be as natural as possible, but it's not as natural as you and me on the side of the road after eating tacos together and saying, hey, what are you thinking about X? And we just talk. And those are the kinds of things I enjoy the most. And I hope the next year is about moments like that so that people can see that. Now, I want to date this episode. Because some have argued that the reason why Trump won over Kamala is because he was willing to go on to these long format rallies, unscripted interviews, but most importantly, these 3-hour podcasts.
Yep.
It's hard to hide who you are in 3 hours of talking. Right. If you're evasive, people see you're evasive. Yeah. If you're funny, if you're interesting, intelligent, or whatever, and likable, people vote for you. Now, I'm not saying I wanted one outcome or the other on camera, but there's something to take note about this. I'm shocked as anybody that our long form content outperforms our short form content, because that's not the trend. The trend is the exact opposite.
Yeah.
But in truth, because I was sitting at this summit for creators and they said it's the return of long form content. Long form is getting its due again, which is awesome for people like me.
Yeah. Dude, so good. And I mean, even like, I saw he played golf for an hour and some with Bryson DeChambeau. And it speaks to, I'm glad I started a podcast a year ago. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, I think it's so easy to just say, yo, here are 3 tips for 1, 2, 3. And so you get XYZ. But like, hey, can you talk for 30, 45 minutes on the thing that maybe you've spent your life obsessing over more than the average person? And I mean, I think because I've been trying to unpack that, because I don't want to say I called it out, but something I noticed early was like the overstimulating content is just getting overplayed, and people just want human. We still want to consume like we're listening to a person or watching a person. And so I think the classroom, I think if you are a teacher, it is a huge opportunity right now to just teach. People want to learn.
Yeah. Maybe that's a larger that's a fractal of the larger pattern that we're seeing. We're going from fast food, fast culture, fast fashion, fast living to slow eating and slow living and taking time to talk to each other. And I think it's an important moment in human history as everything's speeding up, AI and social and internet and all that kind of stuff, that maybe what we really want is just to reconnect.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of science fiction series, and Dune is one of my favorites. In the Dune universe, AI has been banned. Thinking machines have been banned. So maybe that's our future. And there are these people called the mentats, and they have a mental ability to calculate super difficult things. They're basically human computers. And we no longer use the machines or trust machines, and they've been outlawed. And so it's kind of an interesting thing that maybe that's a reflection of things to come, but we're maybe experiencing some of those things today, that masterminds and cocktail parties are things that people desire and can't be replaced as of yet by machines.
It's really good. Do you have a framework for creating a talk or a teaching? Because you're really good at teaching.
I do, actually. I call it, it's like a 5-step recipe. And 5 is the magic number. Despite what Schoolhouse Rock says, it's not 3, it's 5. Take any concept, chunk it down to 5 components. What are the 5 key components that you need to know to be able to execute that? And within each of the 5 chunks, chunk it down until you get your first actionable step. And so it forces you to organize and prioritize the things that are most important. Like, what are the 5 things that someone needs to know to like produce really good video, Omar?
ALVS.
That's 4.
P.
Audio,
lighting, visual, video, setup, post.
Okay. Yeah. And then people are like, well, audio, tell me about audio. Then you would chunk that down to 5. And you keep chunking it down until it's like, okay, here's my first actionable step. I can do that. I find that sometimes when you do 3 or 7 is like too many steps. It gets overwhelming. We can't remember 7. 3 is oversimplification. And you have to like make hard decisions about, does it belong in group 2 or group 1? And so 5 seems to be the magic number.
That's
so
cool.
Chunk things into 5 and then work off that.
Dude, that's game. That's what I call game right there.
Do you know what the effective span of management is?
I've never heard those words put together.
Okay. it is about the rule of delegation. You can effectively manage 5 people on one hand.
Yeah.
There's a 5 thing again, right? This is why there's middle management and the way government is structured. So one person has 5 C-suite executives. And those 5 suite executives have 5 VPs or SVPs, and then they keep doing that. So we can all manage effectively about 5 people. This is a business management concept.
That's good.
So it's not all that different. When you get to 7 or 17, you're not managing anymore. It's like a house on fire at that point.
I think that's really good. Have there been any key books you read to be, or I don't know, like resources that you're good at drawing? I read a book called Draw to Win because I want to be good at drawing.
Are you good?
No.
Are you winning?
Am I what?
Are you winning?
I'm not winning. But what I've learned, the principle of the book is any kind of visual is better than no visual.
Okay.
Because most people are visual learners.
Yeah.
And by drawing a stick figure, it's better than saying, let's just say you are.
Right.
No, draw the stick figure.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, before we invented words, we invented pictographs. Think of the hieroglyphics, right? Or hieroglyphs, and there are ways of representing story. The caves in Lascaux that they're discovered were stories of what happened that day, the mammoth or the fire or whatever it is that they drew. And that's kind of real interesting. I love to draw. I've been drawing all my life, and I'm also trained to draw, and from going to like a formal art school and doing figure drawing and just consuming comic books and looking at panel design and structure. It's an excellent way to tell stories visually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your top 3 things from 10 years of creating content as you go into your next 10 years of creating content?
Top 3 things.
I'm so sorry. Top 5.
Now you put me on the spot. It's AVLSP. No, I'm just kidding. Number 1 thing that I think I've learned, I'm just going to freestyle this, okay? I don't know if I'm going to land on 5.
No.
Number 1 thing is when you stop making ads, people will start showing up. Number 2 is to put in the time and intention behind your content. If you're going to do an hour's worth of content, it's roughly 10 hours of prep. And the way I used to do this pre-COVID pandemic was I would ask my team, what are the relevant hot burning issues that you want to know about or our community wants to know about, having interacted with the fan base. And they would just put a bunch of topics. And I would say, this one's interesting. Let me circle this. Let's have a conversation about it. And we would do it in real time. I would just try and solve the problem, see where they're stuck. And that would become the blueprint or the outline for the call or the talk we're going to have the next day.
Wow.
Literally, that's what I did. I said, you guys, can you take pictures of this? Send it to me. I'm going to go home. I'll work on the deck. I'll organize this sequence in a way that makes sense. And the way that I like to do it is I say, what is it I want them to know and be able to do and to feel about doing it? How will I know they know how to do it? So we're going through this very kind of pedagogical teacher rubric stuff. And then I would then organize information, and I would say, if I don't know what I know, where does this break for me? And I try to design it like inventing the rules to the game. I'm fascinated by game design, like the person who invented Monopoly or Othello or chess. How do they find the rules? And they were looking for ways to make it fun, open, but both people understand within very rigid parameters. There's a lot of flexibility in how you play the game. That's brilliant game design. So you can think of teaching on YouTube or in person, same. What are the rules? What are the variables? And how does this fail? And you design for ways to box them in, but you give them a lot of room to play in between. Dungeons and Dragons is arguably one of the best board games ever invented in ever. Is the thing that you can play many different ways. There's no wrong way, but there's just ways that are just more fun.
Yeah.
And I think that's an awesome thing. So stop making ads, put the time and intention behind the work. Number 3 is practice your craft of delivery. You know, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The teacher's like, Ben Steiner's like, anyone, no one. You know, you don't want to be monotone in your delivery.
Good.
You don't want to be bombastic the entire time. You want to have a flow between high energy, mid energy, and maybe sometimes like some quiet. The mixture, the variety of that is dependent on each person and their own individual style, but is what keeps it interesting. Let's make an analogy here. If a dish came out and you had multiple dishes and they had the exact same flavor profile, it's all spicy and hot, and all had the same texture and color and mouthfeel, I don't care how good it is, eventually you get bored of it. So when you have a salad, and I like to eat salads, really good salads are hard to come by. They understand we need something savory or something that has umami. We need to have a little crunch factor. We need to have something soft and buttery like avocado. And you could do like rock salt on top of it. And we need something that has acid in it, tomatoes, vinegar, something like that. And when you eat that, even though you're not consuming a lot of calories, you feel satiated, and that's really important.
Wow.
You feel like you had a meal. So when you think about your presentation of the materials, you want them to be satiated when they're done. So here's what we do. We have 3 components to it. Component number 1 is you tell them, what's the big idea? The big idea is personal branding is building trust at scale. It compounds daily.
Yep.
Put as much value in as possible. That's the big idea. So high level thinkers, they're like, got it. I don't need to watch the rest of the video. I might keep it on because it might entertain me. Number 2 is you tell a story. You're like, Steve Jobs did this, and then he said that, and then this happened, but then that happened. The last thing is you just do a recap with like a framework, if you can, or an exercise for people to do. So here's your takeaway, everybody. Ask yourself, what brands have earned your trust consistently over time? Distill down the 3 things they've done that have impacted you, and see how you can abstractly apply those to your life and your business.
Wow.
We can reverse engineer everything. So there's a big idea, there's a story, and there's something for them to do, because some people are kinesthetic learners. They need to do it in order for them to learn it. Some people can learn through story, and a very few small select group of people can learn just by reading the table of contents or the book title itself. When you do that, you hit everybody multiple times, and it's called multimodal learning. If you can do that, you can do really great.
Dude.
Number 4, because
Wow.
I'm going to hit 5 now.
This is good.
Number 4 is you have to make sure ahead of the video quality is the audio quality. They will forgive you if it's low res, if it's poorly lit, and if it's out of focus, but they cannot forgive you if the audio is scratchy,
Good.
if the tone of voice feels like you're in a cave, you can't really connect. So if necessary, turn off all the lights and just have a conversation with a person and make sure that what you're saying works. And I'll tell you why. Sound is just energy transmitted through waveform. Feeling, emotion is the waveform tuned to a certain frequency. And so when we say like we're not on the same wavelength, we're not connecting. It's not literally the sound levels, but our energies are misaligned. And you can usually tell when someone's speaking that they have depth, they have experience, they have empathy, or they're trying to impress you, or they're trying to trick you or fool you. We can tell because long before we developed skills to understand words, we understood waveforms and sound quality.
Really good.
That'd be number 4. Number 5. Number 5 is you have to learn how to play the title and thumbnail game. Those 2 things are going to be the biggest drivers to whether or not anybody sees your video at all. I see people do this. They have a template. Some designer made them. Maybe it's Canva.
Yep.
They just crank out literally the same thumbnail. They change the typeface and they put up the same headshots. And quite literally, it's episodes 1 through 1000, and they just do like that. You're doing the bare minimum. And what they don't understand is in this age, only 10% of your YouTube audience will actually see a video who are subscribed to your channel.
Right.
That's not going to be very good for you. Even if you get 10%, that's great. What you're trying to do is you're fighting for the 90% who never ever see your content. And so you're saying of all the billions of pieces of content you can see on this subject, watch mine.
Yeah.
So you need to make a lot of effort in the title design and the thumbnail so that they work off each other. That's really important. There's a big $12 art school word called semiotics. This plus that equals something else. A plus B equals C. So title and thumbnail equals some hybrid new meaning. We put those 2 things together in our mind, and that creates this hook.
It's really good.
Those are 5.
I love it. Let's go. Personal branding for YouTube. How involved? Because like I think a lot of like business owners or people that feel like I'm gonna create content to check off the box.
Yeah.
They're not involved in the title and the thumbnail. They just think I'm gonna just shoot the video. You guys do it.
Yeah.
How involved are you in the packaging of your videos?
I'm less involved, and there's a reason why. In the beginning, I'm super involved because I need to do this. And once you start to figure out the formulas, the next thing you need to do as an entrepreneur is to teach someone else to do that.
Good.
You have to like find out what the secret burger recipe or how you make dough, And once you figure that out, you need to write the recipe and you need to train other people. If they can't get it, the recipe is not strong. A person of average intelligence should be able to follow the instructions you put and see the examples and be able to do that. I, as the CEO of my own company, cannot be the guy who's constantly designing the thumbnails and the titles. It doesn't work that way. However, I'm creative directing. I got an overview over this. So like when it feels off, I send the messages. I'm like, this feels off to the video to me, guys. Or this word is too complicated for our audience to understand. Let's tweak this, or let's watch the click-through rate and the retention to see what's happening, and let's tweak it as necessary. So luckily I have 2 different video teams. They both understand the drill. They have independent teams, but they arrive at the same place, which is how I know we're doing it right.
Dang, that's game right there. Something I found that, they talk about click-through rate and average viewer duration.
Yep.
That's what the 2 things that are so most important.
Yes.
And most people think it starts with click-through rate.
Yeah.
But it actually starts with average viewer duration, because with good titles and good thumbnails, you start their viewer duration because they're thinking and they're processing what you just put in front of them.
Yeah.
And I think it's good that you started it out and then figure it out. Like, okay, here's the formula, guys. Here, like, take that. It's really good.
Yeah. We're not as good at making videos as the people who take this super seriously. Jimmy and his team over at B Central there, they think about the title and the thumbnail long and hard before they actually make the video. Like you said, we're not making content. We just are who we are when we turn on the camera. So we make videos, we talk, and then we are like, okay, what is this video about? And what's the key idea? And so then we do it kind of reverse engineer. I'm okay with that. Sometimes our videos pop and sometimes they don't, but I'm in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
I was not ever setting the intention in my mind, let's make the most clickable viral video we can. Some of them wind up being that, and I'm delighted, but it's not the point. The point is to be an effective communicator and teacher and do things that spark my interest and joy.
That's really good. It kills the pressure.
Yeah, the pressure is to make stuff that you feel good about so you can make it again.
Yeah. And the pressure and the permission that you're going to make it again later.
Yeah.
As far as being repetitive,
yes.
Like what's your thoughts around like how often you repeat yourself? Because there's an assumption that, most people aren't going to watch your stuff, or not even an assumption. It's true. Like, but is it just when you feel like you're moving on from an idea? Like, does that make sense?
No, I know exactly the question. I'm trying to figure out how I want to answer your question. So the question really is about, do you feel like saying something over and over again makes you crazy, or is it a good thing? Is it bad or is it good, or somewhere in between? Let's look at it like this. The first time I say something is not going to be the best way I can say it. Every once in a while I'm lucky, but still I think I could do that better. And we know if we do something over and over again, it gets sharper, more refined, and the delivery becomes smoother, and we're more confident in saying it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see someone who's really good at speaking and being able to think on their feet, I guarantee 1000% that's not the first time they said that. Very rarely.
Right.
Unless you're a freestyle hip hop battle artist. But even then, they still write.
Right.
And they still figure things out ahead of time, right? They know certain hooks that they can drop in, and it's their lifeline. So with the what the hell were we talking about?
But repeating yourself?
Oh, about repeating yourself. Yeah. So I think that I will say things as long as people want to hear from me over and over again. And every once in a while, I'm going to sunset. I'm like, I think I've said it the best way I can say it. I'm kind of tired of saying it now. And now I'll move on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. So for years, I used to talk about pricing, value, hourly, and no one's asking me questions about that anymore because I'm kind of done. So in the last couple of years, I embarked on personal branding, and I made a point to myself, like, can I be the guy that when people think personal branding, my name is attached to that? Yeah. And over a very short period of time, I'd say about a year and a half of intentional action. If you search for me on IG, the For You page for personal branding, I should pop there. And if you Google it or ChatGPT it, I think I should pop. And that's remarkable, right? So with a certain amount of focus and intentionality and being able to consistently show up, anybody, because I'm just anybody, can achieve anything.
It's fire. What do you think your next phrase is going to be?
That's a good one. It'd probably be sales.
Yeah, that's dope. I've been on a sales journey.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the exposure, first it was just realizing that, like, removing what we think of sales. I think naturally we've been programmed to think that selling is sleazy.
Yeah.
We think about the forceful purchase or like being forced to buy something, but no, selling is beautiful.
It can be when it's done right.
When it's done right.
Yeah.
You could persuade for good, because You mentioned that you'll let people know like, hey, I'm doing this workshop. Go sign up.
Yeah.
You know, something I've learned about sales is there are people that are most buyers, especially people who invest in themselves. There could be in their own way of buying something that they should do because it's going to be good for them. And being good at helping somebody get out of their own way to see if this is the right decision is a skill.
Yeah.
But what have been your biggest discoveries as of late with sales from what you used to think of it and like where you're understanding it now?
Yeah. I used to hate this idea of pitching and selling. And the reason why I hated it was because there were bad models for me to follow. Just like with personal branding, I said now 99% of people who are teaching other people or thought leaders in the personal branding space don't get it, don't understand it, and I'm anti everything that they do. And so that's an opportunity for me to go zig when they're zagging. I think sales is very similar. I think it's not quite 99%, but like 80, 85% of the people who do sales training do it in a way that's out of alignment with me. I'm sure it's effective, but it makes me feel gross. It feels unethical. It feels manipulative. It feels like you're applying a lot of pressure to get somebody to do something that's not good for them, but it's good for you. I want to take this approach of like, what is sales like? That's permission based. That's an act of generosity. That is more invitation and helping the other person solve their own problem more than it is your need to make a sale. So it's like the introvert's guide to permission based selling. That's what I think. And
I love that.
I think I've developed a process that's been very effective for me. And I'm trying to teach as many people how to do this, especially creative humans who have a problem with selling, undervaluing their own thing, and artificially pushing an agenda that they don't even realize that they're doing. And I literally got off a sales coaching call earlier today as part of our London recap. And it's still like, we need to practice. You still don't understand it. I can show up 1000% and want to serve you and not want to sell you anything. And you at the end of it will ask, how do I buy from you? And it's wild. The less I want to sell you something, I find, the more you want to buy it from me. I'll give you an example, right? So when we talk about consultative selling, it means I'm in a diagnostic phase with you, trying to help you find what it is that you really want, what your real problems are, to reconcile any logic breakdowns, to make sure it's aligned with what it is that's going to get you the best result with the least amount of risk, and then discover I'm not the best person suited to do it. And I will tell you straight up, Omar, you know that thing that you want to do? I think that's what you really need to do. Unfortunately, there are people that I can just even think of that can do it much better than I could. So I don't think I'm going to be of service to you by saying you should work with me. And usually what happens is, Omar, you'll say, Chris, but I don't trust them and I trust you. Could you hire them and just manage them and I'll pay you what you need to manage them? It's pretty wild. And then I said, well, why don't I think about it? And because I'm not sure it's worth it for me financially to do that, because I'd have to charge you what my time is worth. And you would say, put in whatever you need because I'd rather work with you. So this is all about open and honest and transparent communication. And my highest order is to serve you before my need to make money.
Good.
And in that, I'm creating micro transactions of trust. That's what we're doing.
Dude, I'm pumped for that era.
Next year.
The Andy Elliott, Chris Doe.
How do you know what that means? But I like it.
I don't know.
Somebody
so
knows.
Good.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much. If we can do a part 3, that'd be really cool.
We will do a part 3.
We'll do a part 3. Something, a big unlock I've had as far as like repetition is having a podcast doesn't mean, number one, I always need a guest. Number one, I actually love doing solo episodes.
Yeah.
But the other unlock is you like, why not have people back? Like, you don't need to have brand new guests every time. You can actually have, resident guests on a podcast. And it'd be really cool if you'd be a resident guest, maybe 2 times a year.
Sounds good, man.
Dude, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. Ooh, okay, Starbucks. Nice.
Oh, you just caught that. You got fast eyes, bro. Yeah. Can I tell you about this watch?
Please. I just got a Hulk, by the way.
You did?
Yeah.
The Hulk is all green?
All green.
Are you wearing it?
I'm not wearing it. No.
Okay. Here's a story. All watches tell time. Even a broken watch is right 2 times a day. But this watch tells a story. So this is the Rolex Submariner with date. And it is the Starbucks version of it. Or the Kermit, I think. Sometimes they call them different things, right? I think it's the Starbucks.
I think it's
green
the
and black.
Starbucks, yeah.
Okay. And I didn't want to buy this because I don't want to buy into Rolex's game of like false scarcity or artificial scarcity. And there's a woman from Neil's community. Her name's Anna. And she wanted me to speak at her event. And I said, you know, for me to speak at her event, it's like $30,000. And she goes, Chris, I can't afford it. It's my first event. And I said, okay, I wish you the best. I need to get paid though. She goes, but I heard from a friend that there's something that you want that you haven't been able to get. I'm like, yeah? She goes, there's a certain watch, I believe. I'm like, oh no, I know who told you. I know what's going on here. And she goes, I had to make a bunch of phone calls to see if I can get it for you. I can get it for you. Now, even though the watch isn't worth my speaking fee, I said, you know what? This lady really wants me to speak and is willing to make the effort and energy. And I think the story is worth more to me than the money itself. So in lieu of my speaking fees, I got this watch. But what I get in the watch is not the watch. I get to tell the story every single time somebody asks me,
Fire.
nice watch, bro.
I love
and
it.
So sometimes the story is more valuable than the money. And I'm going to tell you right now, the story is going to be worth $100,000 and it's going to be more than my speaking fee.
Let's go.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.